Hello, 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 powerful mujeres. It's Wendy Amata, your life and business coach, back to talk to you about imposter syndrome. Yes, that's what we're going to talk about today. I feel like a couple of years ago, imposter syndrome became this really hot topic where so many people were discussing it, especially in the Latina community, right? Because I think a lot of us started to experience it and have been experiencing it for years. We just didn't know what to call it. It's the feeling of I don't really feel like I fit in and or am accepted, and therefore I feel like I'm a fake when I'm showing up and doing my thing. Almost like I don't feel worthy enough to be at the table, like I know enough information, have enough education, can really do this particular job or project or position that I'm in. And it brings up feelings of uncertainty and insecurity in me, which is what I define as imposter syndrome. When you feel like you are an imposter, like somehow you faked your way into being able to do the job that you ended up getting or being at the table that you're sitting at, right? Yeah. And I think for a lot of us as Latinas, it feels that way because one of the mindsets that we're taught from our parents is to not toot our own horn or not tap ourselves on the back too much, right? But to stay humble, to always be grateful that we get any opportunity. So we tend to come from the place of, I'm just lucky that I ended up in this position versus no, I deserve to be at this table. I've worked my ass off to get this promotion, or I deserve this raise or this business success that I'm having. I've worked hard for it. And even if I didn't work hard, here's a hint about what we're going to talk about. Even if I myself haven't worked my ass off, my ancestors have, my parents have, the people previous to me have. And therefore, I owe it to them to go for this thing or to follow through with this position that I've now been given. For sure. That's part of what we get to tap into. So I'm going to share with you all one of my imposter syndrome stories. I have many. Yes, I also struggle with imposter syndrome. I still struggle with it now. When I'm in certain rooms and I'm with coaches that are all making like 5 million plus per year, trust me when I say there are moments where I feel like, am I an imposter in this room? Should I really be accepted in this room? Is this the correct room? Did they put me in the right room? Or am I supposed to be with coaches that aren't making that much money yet or whatever? There's an uncomfortableness at times. And I think the brain just does a check on us because it wants to bring us back down to reality, quote unquote, right? Where we belong, where our vibration is used to being at a certain frequency. And when we elevate that frequency, it can feel uncomfortable at the beginning. So, this story that I'm going to share with you guys, I call it my NASA story. Yes. It's the first time I'm sharing it on the podcast, although I've been telling people that I'm going to tell this story for over a year. When I first started this podcast, I was like, oh, this is one of the stories that I'm going to tell. I'm going to have an episode where I talk about my NASA situation. During the pandemic, you might remember in 2020, yes, I started to elevate my business, mostly because there was such a need for experienced coaches in the space and therapy organizations and community organizations that also tailored to Latino community also expanded because there was such a need, right? I found myself getting asked to do speaking engagements, getting asked to do coaching groups, getting asked to come into organizations and help them through real tragic events that they were dealing with, uncertainty, people quitting on them, people not understanding how to manage Zoom. Remember those days where all we were doing was working on Zoom? And before it was Zoom, I think it was Skype. Do we even remember Skype? Sometimes I remember the sound it used to make when I would log on to Skype. And then Zoom came in and like, we don't even talk about Skype anymore, right? All right. So during that time in my life, I received an email. And the email, this was 2020, towards the end. So it was like September, October of 2020. The email came from a woman's name And the first part of her name started with an A. I remember that. And it was a short name, kind of like Aretha or Anitha or something with a TH in it. And then a really long last name. The actual subject line of the email said NASA speaking engagement invitation. Okay. So when I saw it come up in my emails, I was like, this is probably some sort of fraudulent email, because why would NASA be contacting little old me? And a speaking engagement? I don't remember signing up for a speaking engagement. I don't remember sending my credentials or sending my resume or doing anything with JPL or any, and I had no contacts. I didn't have like a friend of a friend that worked somewhere that would put me up for something or something like that. So to me, in my head, I automatically thought it's got to be a joke or some sort of fraudulent email that if I open it, it's probably going to have some sort of virus in it or something I'm supposed to click. So I might as well not open it. I'm not even going to bother opening it. Boom. I mean, literally, guys, it was maybe a second of my life, a second of seeing the email come in, thinking for sure this is fraud, and then letting it go and moving on to the other, 100 emails I had to read that day. Okay. Couple of days go by. I think it was more like 5 or 6 days went by. So it must have been like the middle of the following week. And I see a new email in my inbox from the same woman. Her name, again, starts with an A, and then a really long last name that I couldn't even pronounce, that I couldn't even start to pronounce. And then the subject line said, following up regarding workshop for parents for NASA speaking opportunity. Ooh, there was that name again. There was the name NASA again, which made me feel like, this can't be real. But now there was more specifics in the subject matter, right? Workshop for parents. And one of the things that I had been hit up about over the last few months during this time in the pandemic was going out and speaking to parents who were having to manage their kids being at home while also working from home. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, wait, this could be a legit email? That was the first time my brain actually went to the part of itself where it was accepting what was clearly written in black and white right in front of me, accepting it enough for me to click on the email and say, okay, Wendy, you actually have to open this email. Let's see if this is legit. So I opened the email, and guess what? It was legit. It was real. It was actual real email coming in. It was from this woman who was the head of child services for one of the particular campuses for NASA. So I'm not going to get into too much detail of which campus it was, but it was one of the campuses that supports with childcare when engineers come on site and when they're working on actually doing their work, right? But all the childcare services, all the childcare service providers on all of the NASA campuses, right, JPL included, had gone on hold because we were on lockdown. So kids had to stay home with their parents. So she explains this in the email. Hi, my name is, and I work for this division. And she shared with me the division. And we service parents that happen to be on this campus, but there are 4 other campuses that we're involved with from NASA nationally. Because you might not know this, there's some campuses on the East Coast. There's a campus in Texas, right? There's a campus in Florida. There's a campus out here in California. So she explained all of that. We are looking for someone to talk to our parents about how to manage time during this particularly difficult pandemic that we're going through, where kids are home with their parents and parents still need to stay active and productive in terms of work. Can you support us with doing a workshop for parents who are working in our online communities to help them manage distractions, AKA their kids, and help them manage their time so that they can be more efficient and effective. We'd also like you to provide some services or support around stress management because many of the parents are feeling under tremendous stress, and anxiety management because many of the parents are feeling anxious, especially because they've fallen behind in terms of meeting some of their productivity goals. Oh my God, this was legit. The email was actually from NASA, was from somebody that worked at NASA. Her last paragraph said, I'm specifically reaching out to you because I've been looking for a woman of color coach, AKA me, yay. And I found your article on Hip Latina. Yes, shout out to Hip Latina and the amazing journalists and writers and creators at Hip Latina. So Hip Latina had done an article on me where they had highlighted 10 powerful coaches, Latina coaches. So the article was about, and it was an online article, and then they did a post on their actual social media pages about 10 up and coming Latina coaches. I don't even think it was up and coming. I think it was just 10 powerful Latina coaches. And I was one of the 10, right? I just was one of the people. But she said, I found your article on Hip Latina and you talked about time management because that is one of the things that I coach on is managing your time, mostly because I have ADHD, right, guys? So I needed to learn to manage time. Also, I ended up having twins, if you know my story. 3 kids, a thriving business, a husband. We own properties. I mean, there's a lot going on in our household all the time. And making time my best friend has been one of the best things ever for my life. So I understood what she meant when she said, I read that you are an expert at time efficiency, productivity, follow through, time management. And that's why I'm specifically reaching out to you. And you're a parent. Yes, I'm a mom. So that made it real for me, guys. Let me tell you, I had to stop. I remember I pushed the laptop away from me and I sat back in my chair. I took a deep breath in and I was like, oh shit. Excuse my language. Oh my God. NASA is reaching out to me to do a workshop for some of their top engineers, right? And this email came to me a week ago, and I was stuck in imposter syndrome. I was stuck in denial that NASA would ever contact me. What would NASA want to do with me, right? I mean, I'm not an engineer. I don't have a scientific background. Yes, I'm an expert coach, but come on, could I really coach this level of genius? And of course I can. I've coached this level of genius before. Some of you may know this. I've coached billionaires before. What? Yeah, it's only 2 in my lifetime of coaching. I've coached for 16 years, but I did coach 2 billionaires out of Texas. So you can imagine how they made their money. But it was a great experience for me in being able to hold my own as a coach, right? Because I always say, if you have a human brain, I can coach you because I understand the human brain and I understand human evolution and human behavior, which is a big part of what we do as coaches is transform human behavior. So sitting there in this moment, I was like, this is freaking legit. This is actually legit. This is happening in my life. Of course, immediately I went to respond. I said, thank you so much. I received your email. My apologies for not having responded to your email the previous week, blah, 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 right? I talked a little bit about my experience with time management and that I could certainly put together a workshop around time management, stress management, anxiety management, exactly what she was looking for. I asked some questions about like the size of the audience and of course that this would be through Zoom and time zone stuff and that kind of thing and what dates and times they were looking at. And then I sent the email. I think I attached a portfolio of some of my work, my media one pager that has like the podcasts I've been on and awards I've gotten and things like that so that they could see, look, I am legit. Obviously, they already knew I was legit, which is why they were hitting me up. So then she responded, and the next day, which was great because I was like, oh my God, this is real. She responded the next day and she asked if we could get on a quick call or a quick Zoom the following week so that we could talk through the specifics of the workshop, which we did. Guys, I actually ended up doing a workshop for close to 400 parents who work at NASA. Ah! This is legit. If it hadn't happened to me, I'd be a little bit like, did this really happen? This is the kind of stuff, guys, that opens up when you are in full alignment with who you're supposed to be. Like when you are following the thing that lights you up, when you are in alignment with your purpose, with your vision, with the thing that feels like you're just in flow and it's just going to come naturally. This is the kind of miracles, but they're not really miracles. They're legit things that end up happening to you, opportunities that come to you. And I've had this happen a few other times in my life where it just feels like pinch me because this is really happening. So I did. I put on this amazing workshop. Amazing because I ended up getting clients from it. I ended up coaching like 7 parents at different parts of the US. So what she ended up doing, because she was impressed with what I was putting together, she ended up connecting all of the campuses so that the Zoom link for this and the registration for this webinar went out to all the campuses, right? There were a few people from JPL out here in California in it, but most of the people were East Coast. And then there were some people from Florida and some people from Texas. And so a few people from different states. And it was that combination that ended up with 300 and something parents in the room. And you could see the desperation on these parents. They were like, I don't know what to do. How do I keep my 2-year-old freaking entertained while I respond to emails that NASA keeps sending me, right? So we had to work through some mindset shifts. We had to work through some ways to create a win-win. Those of you that are my clients will understand what a win-win is. Ways to take care of your kid and still get your emails done, and ways to create more stimulus so that you can focus, right? Because a lot of these parents were like, I'm stuck in my bedroom all day because that's the private place for me to be able to work. But I'm just sitting behind the computer all day long and my brain is fried. And it feels like I'm getting interrupted every other minute by my kid. So I had put together a really valuable workshop for them. I even got an award and like a certificate and all of this. And this was all legit. Oh, I had to go through a whole bunch of security checks, even though I wasn't going to be physically on a campus. This was all done through Zoom. But they had me sign a bunch of paperwork and I had to give them my social security number and other things that I think they put me through some sort of security check before I was actually cleared to do this workshop. So there was some paperwork involved and then an official letter that they sent me from NASA. I should do a little reel about all of this as I'm talking about this. I realize I can show you guys a little bit of what I put together for them. The reason I'm bringing up this whole story, yes, even me, I get stuck in imposter syndrome also, right? And what shifted me out of the imposter syndrome and what has supported me through the years, every time I get kind of pinched by it or tagged by it again, it feels like it pinches me where I feel like, is this really happening? I don't think this is happening. I don't think this was meant for me. Am I really supposed to be here? Like, am I supposed to be in this room? I don't know if it's supposed to happen this way. Do I belong in this room? Whew. So when I have those moments of doubt, here's the first thing that I do. And this is actually what has really helped me conquer imposter syndrome. I drop into my heart. When my brain is telling me, you don't belong in this room, they sent the email to the wrong person, you're not smart enough, tall enough, thin enough. I fill in the enoughness, right? You're just not enough to be sitting at this table. I drop into my heart. I move energetically from my brain, which is trying to analyze the situation, into my heart chakra, which is just open to love. And what happens when I drop into my heart, we could talk about a couple of ways to do that. But what happens when I drop into my heart is I get connected to all of the loving work that has been done by generations of my ancestors, my parents, so many women that have come before me to allow me to get to this opportunity. So many people that have sacrificed, struggled, fought for me to be able to be given this opportunity to be, for example, presenting to 400 parents that work for NASA. That's what happens when I drop into my heart. And I have a feeling if you're Latina and you're listening to this, that the same thing will happen to you once you practice dropping into your heart on a consistent basis. Woo, because you're no longer fighting imposter syndrome with your thoughts. And listen, we talk a lot about thoughts here. I'm a big proponent of managing your thoughts, managing your thinking. I think that's super important. And something like imposter syndrome is about a feeling that you're getting, a feeling of, I don't really belong here. What if I get caught and they realize that I'm not as smart, I'm not as capable, I'm not as worthy, right? It's a feeling. That's why it's important to drop into your body and drop into your heart specifically, because your heart is going to soften you to then start feeling the love of all the people that came before you so that you could actually make it into this room, so that you could make it into the seat that you're sitting in, right? And when we think about our ancestors, so much opens up for us. And listen, for some of you, this may be the first time you're thinking about your ancestors, like you haven't really thought about them in your day-to-day life. If this is the first time you're hearing about this concept of connecting to your heart by connecting to your ancestors, I have a growth work assignment for you. Sit down and write out a letter that comes instinctively from you to your ancestors. So if you were talking to your grandparents, your great grandparents, your great 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 grandmother, what would you say to her? If you could talk to your great 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 grandmother right now, what would you say to her? That is a way to tap into your heart. Write that out in a letter, whatever you just came up with. Write it out in a letter and then allow yourself to go into like a free flow of writing. Continue to write. Continue to write. As more pours in, as more pours through you, it will become even more impactful. And you'll be able to feel how powerful it is to connect to your ancestors through writing. Here's a couple of other ways in which I drop into my heart or connect with my heart, which always supports me in pulling myself out of imposter syndrome. One quick way. Think of somebody that you love unconditionally. Someone or something, or it can be an animal or a pet that you have, anything around you that you love and loves you unconditionally. And just picture it. Picture their beautiful face looking at you. Picture the way they move when you get home. And if it's an object, picture that object. Picture holding that object. That is going to take you out of the brain, out of the nervous system, into your heart, into that part of you that is soft and vulnerable and allows you to open up. Because here's a secret to life, guys. In order for you to actually transform your life, which is what you're here to do, or why you're listening to this podcast is because you want to transform your life. In order for that to happen, you actually need to be in a state of openness. Not in a state of analyzing, but in a state of openness in your body, in your nervous system. So that's a powerful way to drop into your heart. A third way to drop into your heart and actually connect, right, with what you love, what you're loving, is when's the last time you felt really loved? When's the last time you felt really loved? And it could be that somebody was holding you, somebody gave you a flower, somebody offered you something, or it could have been, at the Starbucks line and somebody let you go in front of them. Or your kid asked you how your day was. That was mine today. Luca asks me almost every day when I pick him up from school, "Mommy, how was your day?" It melts me every time. And I know it's part of what his teacher tells him to do. It's part of like their afternoon check-in. But I love that he checks in with me. How was your day? Because I always ask him, how was school today? What did you learn? How was your day? How was recess? How was lunch? How'd you do on your math test? How'd you do with AR reading? So it's just one of those things that makes me melt, right? That has me drop into my heart and melt and feel loved in that moment. And if you can't think of a time recently where you felt loved, think of a time when you felt safe. And if you can't think of a time when you felt safe, think of a time when you felt joy, an experience of joy or an experience of happiness. All of that is going to help open up that heart chakra for you. It's going to drop you into your heart. It's going to have you feel the feeling of worthiness, acceptance, peace, feeling enoughness, which is what helps us fight off the imposter syndrome. So the answer isn't in the brain or your thoughts or your mindset. It's actually in the body and what is happening in your heart. That's where the answer is to how do I conquer imposter syndrome? It's the dropping into your heart, which is what I did when I pushed the laptop away after I realized, oh crap, this is legit. NASA really does want me to speak. I pushed the laptop away. I sat back in the chair and I dropped into my heart in that moment as it became real to me. So I realized, oh, this is really happening. Sometimes I'll just put my hands physically over my heart. And that's powerful too, because it just reminds me, get out of the brain, Wendy, and get into my body, get into my heart. What is my heart telling me? So my heart almost always is saying, yes, you belong here. Yes, this was supposed to come to you. Yes, this email was meant for you. This opportunity was meant for you. Those answers that you're searching for, my dear, are available to you. You just need to drop into your heart to find the answers. So 3 ways to drop into your heart. 1, think of your ancestors. Think of your great, great, great grandmother. And would she say that you deserve to be at this table? If you find it hard to connect with your ancestors, write them a letter. That will open you up. That's a free write. Just say whatever you would want to say if you were actually talking to your great grandmother. This is a great exercise. I'll probably have Inspired Action do this as a workshop at some point or a challenge. Secondly, picture the face of someone that you unconditionally love or someone who unconditionally loves you. It's a great way to drop into your heart immediately, out of your head into your heart. And lastly, think of the last time you experienced love, the last time you felt loved or felt joy or any sort of similar experience that will get you out of your head and into your body, like a memory of something. It doesn't have to be something big. It could be something very small that happened. Whatever it was that you felt gratitude, that you felt taken care of, that you felt at peace. Any of those feelings will shift you out of your headspace and shift you into your heart, which is going to help you actually conquer imposter syndrome. Now, you might be thinking this is crazy. There's no way this legitimately works. Try it. Try it and let me know. Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts around my NASA story. Would this have been you? Would you also have been like, I just don't think NASA would want me to show up for a workshop? Or would you have been like, hell yeah, NASA's contacting me? I share all of this with you just to let you guys know that I still to this day struggle with imposter syndrome. I don't think it ever completely goes away, but I have these tools, right, that really support me in dropping into my heart and in remembering who I really am. When I drop into my heart, that's when I remember the power of my ancestors, the power of my abuelita, the love, the unconditional love that I have around me. And then that makes me feel like, hell yeah, I can definitely train 400 parents who work for NASA on how to build a better living situation for themselves. I can conquer any challenge that is given to me. And that feeling, that vibration helps overcome any sort of imposter syndrome thoughts. I love you all, and I will catch you on the next episode of Yes Mujer. Build it. See you soon.